With Project Zomboid development ramping up, we're likely to get more and more frequent patches, so it's time to take a look at Build 41.67's unstable release and break down everything new, fixed, changed, and patched in today's video. It's not as crazy of a patch as last time, but still, it's pretty good, and there's a lot of focus on multiplayer changes. Now before I begin, I'd like to say thanks to Kato for her lovely work on today's thumbnail. I'd also like to request your support on the content with a like and a sub if you enjoy it. Now let's begin, shall we? Once again, the multiplayer for this patch is a doozy. Given a big focus of it has been bringing back online and stabilizing over the last few months, this is unsurprising. First up, there's been some cheat control elements added, with each anti-cheat being able to be enabled or disabled via server options, and several of these anti-cheats can be configured. These anti-cheats are also disabled by default for co-op hosted servers, so if you and your friends are just playing together fucking around on a hosted server instead of a dedicated server, it wouldn't just obliterate your friends out of existence unless you manually enable these. A minimum, maximum, and default values hint has been added to the server options change UI window for double and integer server options. Ghost mode and no clip are removed when a player's admin permissions are removed. The anti-cheat thresholds have also been adjusted. Players also won't be kicked in co-op hosted servers. Now the gain XP limit can be adjusted via a multiplayer value, and a system property Archon low is added to make Archon server listen on loopback interface only. A new ISO object ID class replaces the zombie ID map, and now the mod string that shows for Steam servers is limited to 128 characters, which now shows up to the limit and X amount more, which is to fix some servers reporting question mark as their version number, which would stop people from being able to join. The server will now exit if there are syntax errors in the server name sandbox vars lua file. Said file is also saved after loading it to update to the latest version with comments. Some missing buttons have been added to the admin panel UI, and the admin panel UI is closed if a player has no access or they get their privileges revoked. The same also applies to the safe zone tool. Now the safe house tooltip shows all the reasons a particular building cannot be claimed, and now there's a new server option called safe house allow non-residential, which will allow all building types to be claimed. Finally, I can take over the damn warehouse in Muldrow for me and my friends. It did annoy me the fact that you couldn't just take over all the buildings. Always found it weird that you only could take over houses. Now there's a confirmation window that shows when you release control over a safe house, and now the safe house owner doesn't show in the safe house member list. And there's now a check when releasing a safe house if the player is the current owner or an admin. Now players shouldn't be teleported out of a safe house when they're removed from the safe house while a member of said safe house is online. Now the safe house should be replaced when a player disconnects, and now the server will update the safe house online member count periodically. Now both options on the yes and no confirmation for quitting a safe house should work right. Zombies can be deleted by an admin or server owner, and now a player shouldn't get hung up on the quit command because of an active Archon connection. Now CDs and VHS tapes should display the same for different players. And now global mod data.save should be called, and the same with Zomboid radio.save when other things are saved on the server. A Lua error in the IS player stats manage IV UI has been fixed after calling the add item command in multiplayer. Some stitch packet issues have been fixed, and repeating exceptions in game client.sent, adding removed items when a container object is null has been fixed, and the final multiplayer fix is adding or removing items from a container not being synced in multiplayer due to a player teleporting before the changes can be reported to the server, which is the cause of one of the fixes above. Sound also didn't have much. It's mostly the Fmod on Linux and Windows was updated to 2.02.05, and error checking and logging was added for when Fmod initializes, and if an error occurs, the sound system is disabled. Now let's forge up some new foraging as well as balances and fixes, shall we? Let's forge up some new changes and additions for foraging, shall we? we'll really get to the root of this patch. Now there's a new added search focus system for forging. Much like the old forging system where you could set the things you want to prioritize, this will make it easier for you to spot things in particular. Now the focus is set in the investigate area window with only one focus at a time being active. This increases your chance to find certain categories of item when you're searching for. You'll also still have to be skilled enough to identify the item category to focus on it. So no, you're not going to be able to cheese the game and find categories you're too dumb for. Focus effectiveness is also determined by player skill and category. Hidden item categories also cannot be re-rolled to protect the rare finds. Basically, your forge focus can't override a rare piece of loot. And the final part of the new focus system is that the square must be valid to roll the item type. So no, you're not going to dig up berries, herbs, and mushrooms out of a stone driveway. But this isn't all with forging. First up now, clothing effect will not be duplicated in the zone display tooltip. A missing per player render flag has been fixed. The sprite affinity definitions have been tidied up. Now the medicinal herb requirement has been fixed where it previously checked for the trait rather than the recipe. Tooltips should no longer flicker in the zone display. The skill requirement to identify firewood and stone has also been removed. The search functions now have translations. Controller support has been added for the search focus. The tables have been tidied up and aligned, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that either means table stories or the system's loot tables. Now there's another tooltip added to long tips that makes them easy to read without scrolling, and a zone display tip has also been added for using the search focus. Now let's wrap up this section with a few balances and fixes, shall we? First up, Axeman has been fixed and properly applies the bonus to swing speed. And now exercising fatigue should be adjusted correctly, and community translations have been updated. Finally, the car dashboard shouldn't be delayed when the car takes damage, and doors shouldn't be missing their glass. Finally, the triangle void dirt should be fixed in gardens and such, which is nice because I found that to be such a fucking eyesore. The final fix is now disassembling player-made floor tiles shouldn't create two floor tiles anymore when the game's reloaded, one being an auto-generated wood floor and the dirt tile under it. This just about covers up everything, so let's wrap this video up, shall we? While this patch is definitely on the smaller side than usual, it still adds some much needed fixes to the game and brings back a very useful feature back to the foraging system. I for one am stoked to have the focus system back. It's nice being able to put a focus on, say, food when you're nearly starving to death, or insects when you want to just find some bait for trapping. And all you keep finding for some reason is logs. Otherwise, it's mostly just multiplayer and server related changes, which is nice to see them fine-tuning things, but ultimately I'm more interested in seeing how the professions and crafting changes are coming, as well as the animal NPCs with their notorious cows trying to mate with the zombies. I'm also enjoying the increased frequency of the updates, even though it's probably going to drive the modders wild with more frequently having to update their mods and fix them. Still, it's good to see foraging getting more and more expanded upon. I think this just about wraps up the video, however. Once again, thanks for all the support. It's very much appreciated, especially to the members listed on the screen who help make this more financially feasible. If you'd like to see your name up there and gain access to a supporter-only section of the Discord with voting rights for the weekly supporter streams, then consider supporting the content. This has been Core, and I'll see you next time.